Hey guys, Pete here. Today I'm going to do another Dark Season 3 video about some of the theories that are popping up and some of the ideas that are out there after the trailer dropped. There was also some additional new footage that got released on the German Netflix channel after I had already started editing my first video. It's really interesting, so we'll take a look at that as well. I'm also going to talk about some of the behind the scenes photos that have been posted on Instagram, like I did in my Season 3 spoilers video from last year. That means there will be spoilers. And of course, I'll be discussing everything that's happened in Dark in the first 2 seasons. If any of that raises red flags for you, now is your chance to leave. As for the additional footage, we see this new trio again in some of the same shots we saw from the teaser. I still tend to think this is happening in the past, based on the lanterns they're carrying, but we did also see these guys out in the world in the 80s. One of the things I didn't touch on before is that the Sic Mundus lair looks abandoned, and it makes us wonder where Adam traveled after the apocalypse. It also calls into question where the rest of Sic Mundus are, especially the older Magnus and Franziska. And then we get a shot of old Helge, and he has an injury to his eye rather than his ear. This seems like a pretty good indication that he is Alt Helge of Alt Marta's world. Just like the way we see Marta has a different haircut and Magnus has a different hair color and tattoos. Alt Helge is saying tick-tock, tick-tock, much in the same way he did in The Wind and We Already Know. This hints that he was involved with time travelers in both worlds. After that, we get a shot outside the caves with alt versions of Bartosz, Magnus, Franziska, and Marta. We also see another teenager with the gang that's conspicuously missing Jonas and Mikkel. The new character is an actor who had a small role in Marta's play in Season 1, and he showed up in a lot of the behind-the-scenes photos. Based on old Claudia's statement that she's seen the world without Jonas, we expect that he was never born in this world. Marta is wearing the yellow raincoat, which makes us think that she is Jonas's replacement in this world, and that the new character is probably just a friend from high school to fill out the group. The teens are all carrying flashlights, and we see them turn towards the cave like they're startled by a sound inside. We can only speculate on what's going on here, but since they're startled by a sound, someone may be traveling through the passage. Then we get what is probably the most interesting shot for me. We see a workshop in the past where stranger Jonas is working on something. What's really crazy about this is that Alt Marta is standing behind him, and we get a close-up shot to confirm it's her. This appears to be in the distant past, and there was a clearer shot of this on Instagram that makes it seem pretty certain that he's working on the God Particle twin machine under the church. The big question is, what does Alt Marta being there actually mean? Obviously, she saved Jonas when he was younger, but this looks like the stranger post-apocalypse. If he's working under what will eventually be the church, it's safe to say he's accepted his path in founding Sic Mundus and ultimately becoming Adam. Marta looks different than she did in the Season 2 finale, and there were some shots from filming that were posted that were captioned with the question, "A new look for Marta," which kind of draw a distinction from the Marta we saw at the end of the season. After thinking about this, the shot of the letter burning in the teaser came to mind. Young Noah did say it was written by Marta, which wouldn't make sense if he was talking about Marta Prime. The popular theories were that Adam wrote it himself, or that it had to be sent by Alt Marta. Seeing these two characters together at this point makes me lean towards it being the latter, and that could add an interesting layer if she was warning him about the trio. Either way, these two interacted beyond her saving his life during stranger Jonas's transformation into Adam, so the letter could come from her, and Adam could have given it to Noah. Beyond that, the German teaser is mostly just recycled shots, but there is this one of Jonas that's slightly different, and we get a better look at those golden lights, which seem to be tied to traveling between worlds. We saw them in the other teaser when Claudia used the golden orb to travel. Helge showing up does confirm my guess that it was him in the shot in the teaser, and as mentioned, the scar on his eye confirms he's an alt version. Did he get this scar by being bashed in the head with a rock too? We don't know yet, but there was this shot of a woman bashing someone, and Reddit has identified who she is. This photo of a bloody woman with an 80s looking pink jacket has been up on Baron Bo Odar's website for a while. This actor played a minor role in season 2 as the nurse in the facility where Ulrich is currently growing old. The character's name is Helene Wolf, which doesn't connect her to anything I can think of. I imagine that this is similar to The New Teenager in that they used an actor who had a small part in previous seasons to play something different in the alternate world. If that's the case, she could be assaulting Alt Helga, but there's some problems with that. First, the shot is purposely cut so we can't see who she's hitting. And also, in the Prime world, Helga was a boy in the 1950s and her clothing doesn't match that. When I saw where this was, I thought about Hannah because of the theory about the woman in the lake. I talked about this theory in my spoilers video, which stems from Bartosz's story while they were swimming in the lake in season 2, episode 6. Remember, we saw in photos that Hannah, who's in 1954, is wearing the St. Christopher pendant when it's brand new. She appears to be the first owner, and years later, Jonas and Marta will find the pendant on the shore. The lake is the only common denominator here, though. It's hard to connect the dots so that it makes sense that Hannah is bludgeoned to death in the 80s by a minor character, and then later, the legend becomes a woman in a dress drowned in the lake. That doesn't mean this isn't Hannah, or that this isn't how the pendant ended up there. But if that's the case, the woman in the lake theory would be wrong. People also think Helene Wolf could be Katarina's mother based off of this photo. There is a woman behind the teen and a pink coat hanging there. I'm not sure though. I mean, the evidence is pretty weak, but there were a lot of pictures of teen Katarina on the Instagram account, so we're likely to learn more about her. The problem with speculating on that is that we don't know what that'll be connected to. For me, the most compelling mystery from all this new footage remains who are the trio. I stand by my thinking that they are brand new characters that we haven't met before, but there are a lot of theories out there that disagree with me. The ones I see repeated the most are that it's the real Alexander Kohler or Altworld's Mad Nielsen, but I've also seen people who think it might be Peter or even a child of Jonas and Alt Marta. The Mads theory seems to hinge on a resemblance between the child actors who play them, which doesn't really convince me. Mads' role in the story was to give Ulrich a personal history that makes him question a connection when kids start to go missing again. I don't really see how an alt version of him becoming these characters would be a bonus. The Alexander angle also is based on the resemblance of the middle character in the picture of Clausen's brother, and the question of why Boris Niewald took his identity is a more compelling mystery that needs to be explained. Again, the evidence here doesn't really get me excited. The trio all have this cleft lip that connects them, and none of the photos that exist of the original Alexander Kohler have that. For me, Boris Niewald, who later becomes the central character Alexander Tiedemann, is the more interesting part of that mystery. It's not to say that these theories aren't possible, because certainly they are, and they are popular. I just haven't jumped on board with any that I've read to this point. And I'm not trying to be glib. There are other pieces of circumstantial evidence that pop up to support these ideas if you use them as your starting point. Things like Mads being sacrificed by Sigmundus in the Prime world because of his importance elsewhere. Based on what we've seen though, these guys give me a vibe that says that they're from somewhere else. They are three versions of the same person 33 years apart in age that operate as one. We see them destroy the lair under the church, which is essentially Sigmundus's collection of time travel knowledge. And they seem to be intervening in a way that shows they know what's going on. One of the theories I've seen is that they are from a third world, which could be related to the Trinity Knot imagery that sort of naturally builds off the infinity symbol imagery representing the two worlds connected to each other. I've even seen people go as far as to say that they are from the world without time, which Adam has said he wants to create, but I think it's too early to tell. I do wonder if these guys might be behind the Triquetra notebook since its origin is still a mystery, but it's a leap to get there from watching 25 seconds of them in a trailer. The other thing I decided not to bring up is this idea of Adam and Eve. I actually started writing about it, but found myself going in circles because the idea brings up more questions than it answers for me. The gist is that in the world where Jonas doesn't exist, Marta leads a life similar to his where she grows old to become Eve. After all, if we have someone who changed his name to Adam and hangs around with this guy whose name he changed to Noah, well then why not have an Eve? Especially when you have a character in a room that looks an awful awful lot like the Sic Mundus lair, except that it has a painting of Adam and Eve on the wall instead of the fall of the damned. Not to mention, the first time the character shows up, she's carrying a time machine more advanced than any that we've seen that also happens to resemble an apple. Plus, in the casting news, we had an actor who could be used to portray an Eve that is 33 years older than Alt Marta. Beyond these obvious connections, I'm just left with a bunch of questions I can't answer. Yes, it does seem like in the alt world, Marta has a path similar to Jonas's in the prime world, but why? Why does this world exist in the first place? Is it occurring naturally? Has it always existed? Or is it a result of time travel in the first place? If it's a product of that, then are we dealing with a universe where when something happens that affects the past, a new timeline or branch then exists? We don't really know at this point because we've been presented with a deterministic system where nothing could be changed. Plus there's a whole bunch of other things like you have to ask, are Adam and Eve working together? Are they enemies? How does Claudia fit into that picture? And it just keeps going from there. There's also this much repeated idea floating around about the tick-tock voiceover at the end of the trailer. It goes tick-tock, then talk tick, and then just talk. The idea is that things go in reverse in the alt world, as in literally in reverse. Like the shots in the trailer of Jonas running backwards and Marta with the tear running up her face. So you would have the prime world where things go one way, Marta's world where things go the other way, and then the final talk would be a representation of a world where time doesn't exist. Everything in the alt world playing in reverse seems completely impractical from a viewing perspective though, and the shots of Alt Helga and the cave from the German Netflix video aren't presented that way. They go forward. I mean, call me old-fashioned, but I sort of expect that scenes including dialogue would be presented in a way that we can easily understand what's happening. So in the end, I'm curious about how these worlds exist, how they are connected, and what it all means, but I don't think we have the answers, and honestly, I like it that way. And with that, I will bring this video to an end. Let me know in the comments what you think about what we've seen of Dark Season 3 so far, and which of these theories get your wheels turning. And let me know what kind of Dark videos you'd like to see in the coming month while we wait for the season to drop. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.